Yeah, Sega Hotline. Is Sin Spacies there? Just tell him the top loader called. What do you mean he's busy? Doing what? A YouTube channel? Yes? No, I did not get my mother's permission. It just hung up on me. See, that's the difference between Sega and Nintendo. The Nintendo hotline would have just kept taking my money.
This is a ministry report from the Ministry of Retro Gaming.
Since Spacies.
G'day invaders and welcome to Since Spacies, and this is a ministry report, and we are joined by Ash from the Ministry of Retro Gaming. How you doing?
Hey hat buddy.
Yeah, nice hat, mate. And we've also got Mark from MAZ Gaming. How you doing there?
Hey guys, how's it going?
And today we have got a few topics lined up, but for this particular video we're going to be talking about the dirty world of advertising in video games. Now, advertising in gaming is not new. We've had, what was it, Global Gladiators, the McDonald's game for the Mega Drive. It was a cool game, but you know, it's convincing kids to go out and get obese with McDonald's food. And a Cool Spot, that was another one that comes to mind. And Burger King have had one on the Xbox 360. That's another game that...
Pepsi Man, the PlayStation, that game was ace.
Pepsi Man is awesome. And I really did love Angry Video Game Nerd's video. The spoiler that came up, like, well, the reveal that was like halfway through that was just like, holy crap, how did he manage to pull that off? If you haven't seen it, look up Angry Video Game Nerd, Pepsi Man. It is worth a watch. But lately what's happened is that 2K Gaming have decided that if you are going to sit through a loading screen, you're going to have to sit through an advertisement for a Netflix video or for some other product that they're pushing. So it is a 30-second advertisement, and the kicker is that even if the game has fully loaded, it will tell you gaming now loaded, but you still got to sit through the rest of that commercial before the game will proceed to play. So, yeah, it's a dick move.
It's a turbo dick move.
Okay, so my question to you guys with this video is, where do we draw the line? What do you find is an acceptable point in advertising? Because advertising can't be helped, especially in sporting games. The billboards on the side, I don't care about that. That to me is fair game. If I see a commercial for Barclays Bank or Coke or whatever on the sideline, I'm like, yeah, that's realistic. That's what you would expect to see at a big sporting event. But to make you sit there and watch a commercial about a product that you don't care, and keep in mind that you might need to watch that same commercial over and over again, where do we draw the line, guys?
If the game's free, right? So if the game doesn't cost anything, and the cost of entry is, sometimes you got to watch an advert. Like mobile games, they suck, but you know, it's fair enough. I got to make some money. I'm not that bothered. Yeah, if you don't pay anything for the game, cool, okay, why not? They need to make money somehow. We're capitalists, aren't we? But yeah, like in a game that you've probably paid what, $60?
That is a full price game. That is a full price game.
You. Like absolutely no. You can fuck off. No way. Basically, no. Just sort your lives out.
So you're telling them basically where to stick their commercial. Okay. But having said that, what would you find is an acceptable form of advertising in a game? Because I totally get it that they've got to try and find other ways of bringing in money, because despite what people will tell you, video games are not getting more expensive, boys and girls. We used to pay loads more for video games in the early 90s than what you are paying now. So if you think here in Australia $100 for a video game is expensive, you're wrong. That is a pretty reasonable price, considering that the production level of a video game has gone up through the roof. Yes, they are selling more, but they are spending more time to make the game. So
I think, I mean, because like there are certain ways of doing it where actually, I mean, it can be used to your advantage. Like you say, sport games, fine. I mean, that's literally like, if I went to Old Trafford today, then I'd see advertising on the side of the pitch. So it's part and parcel. Shenmue did it very, very well back in the day. With all the links to, like certain colas, like the watch was a real brand of watch, and all the rest of like, Timex, like all those kind of linkings like that, like it can actually add realism to the game. But when it is just a bullshit, like like nothing being added at all in terms of like for the consumer, like absolutely no benefit to anyone other than just them making a few more pence per watch, that's when it's like bullshit, like it shouldn't really happen. And like you say, mobile games absolutely fine. If it's free to play, then obviously someone's got to make some money somehow. I will absolutely sit there and just put up with that. But if you've paid actually real money for a real game, then that's it's just like I say, just an absolute dick move, in all possible ways, really.
What you say is interesting, Brian. Like the whole thing with the price of games, and I completely agree with you. Like £60 or £50 in 1995 is a lot more now, right? So like what you get for 50 quid now, inflation. I see people that go, oh look, Mega Drives only cost 200 quid when they came out. It's like, yeah, but that was in 1991.
Inflation
like,
at 2% every year on that price, and that's what you're looking at about now.
And they're like, my attitude of all of this is, I'm like, I agree with you. Games cost a lot to make. They're getting exponentially more expensive to make. I think for sometimes misguided reasons, but I think honestly, if you aren't making enough money in the game, make the game 150 quid. Like I think that's fine. If you feel like that's worth it to you. Like one of these guys who plays things like Destiny and whatever, these guys sink hundreds of hours into these games, right? Like if you go and buy a movie ticket for, over here it's about £15 in England to go watch a film. That's 2 hours, right? The money to hours of entertainment on games is really, really good. And if it's something that you're going to be spending, like a sports game, you're going to play that for a year, probably a few hours a week. That's probably, it's going to be a hard sell, but that's probably worth 200 quid, right? Sell the game for 200 quid, or make it a subscription, right? And don't have this. This is where I'm kind of for subscription gaming, because it's like, if it means that you don't get a worse experience for the financial requirements of games companies, then just make it more expensive and suck it up, and just sell that to the customer instead of bullshit stuff like that. Because they want to try and have their cake and eat it a little bit, don't they? They want to sort of say, let's make it 60 quid and do this. Like, no, make the game 200 quid.
It gets even sneakier though. They recently dropped the price on this basketball game so that it went to #1 on the on the eShop listing. And then as soon as they started to get the #1 ranking, they bumped the price back up again, so it got them advertising.
These people deserve the plague.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like these gaming and the surprising thing, it wasn't EA. These gaming companies sit there in a boardroom meeting and basically saying, how can we screw gamers over in the most efficient way possible? It's just become scrupulous. The
I know
methods.
I've said this so many times, but like I feel so sorry for the devs behind these games, because the devs give a shit.
Yeah.
But it's the money men at the top, like the finance guys who go, right, so I mean, so we're going to charge them $69.99 anyway. How can we just keep reaping, like every month, even more shit off this one game constantly? And that's where the whole, I'm not going to drag it up again, but the whole microtransactions thing come in. Like this is basically another way of doing that, like without even making you like put your your hand in your wallet, really. Like this is basically microtransactions, but on the other end, like from the advertisers, not the consumer.
Now the kicker here is, and this is really odd, if you go into the settings in that game, you can actually turn the loading screen advertising off. It's just that it's set to on by default, and most people, look, we all know how lazy people are. Getting people to hit subscribe, hit it now, guys, while you're listening, hit subscribe. But people just hitting like or hitting subscribe, they just won't do it. So getting them to actually go in and take the effort of going into the options menu to find that and switch it off, no one's going to do it. So they'll have to sit through those 30-second commercials advertising Netflix and whatever else. It's just weird.
It's clever and intentional, because they know that most people won't turn it off, but also they get to say, well, you can turn it off, and they've sort of introduced this idea. There'll be people who defend it and go, well, you can turn it off, and slowly, over the course of however long, they'll normalise the idea of, hey, and you might get, in the worst case scenario, you get like a year of games advertising that you can turn off, and slowly, one by one, those buttons will start to fucking disappear from the games.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So
And then it's just
my
when do you have games advertising in them?
my position with this is that if we let this be a thing now, where they're just going to keep overstepping that mark, and they're just going to get it to the point where not only are you paying for the game, but you're also going to be swamped with advertising. The game experience itself is going to be limited because you're being swamped with all this advertising within the game. If you look at Netflix, for example, at one point in time, Netflix was the ultimate platform, and there was no commercials. Commercials will come though; they're going to come no matter. It's like cable TV. Cable TV, you pay for that subscription, and you initially didn't get advertising, but eventually now, with anyone who has Fox Sports or whatever, they'll tell you that it's swamped with advertising, despite the fact you're paying for that privilege. Yeah, so I don't know what the takeaway from this is. Is that how can we vote against this? Can we just say
Like with your wallet.
yeah?
Don't buy
exactly
the game. Don't buy it.
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly
the only way
right.
that's the only language that these people speak is money. And if it doesn't work financially, they won't do it. They have no ethics, no scruples, no morals. But if you don't buy it, they won't do it. But like, here's the thing, on a slight tangent actually. In terms of funny advertising and over-the-line advertising, is I got Final Fantasy 15 recently, right? That game sucks. Don't play it. It's rubbish. Fight me if you think otherwise. But one thing in there is you've got you're in a fantasy game, a Final Fantasy game, and they camp, and they've got Coleman branded tents.
I've played it.
And they
Yeah.
and they eat cup noodle brand noodles, and there's actually a side quest apparently, which I'm not got onto because I've stopped playing it because it's trash. Where you actually have a side quest related to the buying and consumption of cup noodles, that the real life noodle brand.
No.
Yeah.
Is that real?
It is. Yeah, I've heard about this before.
And this is why I tapped out of Final Fantasy after 10. They can fuck off. No
12 was
way.
good. 12 was really good. 12 was great.
Fucking
The rest
hell.
of them
Anyway,
the rest of them can
so in a nutshell, brace yourself, guys. We need to fight the fight. Advertising and gaming needs to just behave itself. Pull the reins back on it. If you must, I know this is going to annoy people, but put the pricing of the games up. I will pay more for a game if it means that I'm going to get a full-fledged experience. If it keeps these gaming companies afloat by bumping up the price a bit, so be it. It's bound to happen. The price has remained below $100 here in Australia for so long. I'm surprised we're not seeing $120, $130, $140 standard edition games yet. I don't know. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So, yeah.
It's easy to get on with it. Incidentally, I'm currently enjoying the refreshing taste of Red Bull.
And on that note,
But
my
anyway,
name has been
advertising
Brian, and I've been gaming since Spacies. Thanks,
This
guys.
video has been brought to you by Squarespace.
Oh, yeah.
Since Spacies.